Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. All right, on this podcast, what I want to talk about is an era. I think we all go through certain eras, certain points in their lives. For me, it was the club era. I had my club era, club run, if you will. The time where I would, frequent the clubs. So I got some stories to tell you. First, let me drop the theme music and we'll get the podcast jumping. Let's get it. As I mentioned at the top, man, we're talking about you can find me in the club. Well, technically you can't, but at one point in time, you actually could. I would hit the clubs pretty frequently, man. And I think like my club era probably went from college up until probably about, so I'm talking like maybe from like 90, I say like 92 up until like maybe 2005-ish, somewhere around there. So I had a good run, right? But obviously, when you're in college, people, you expected to go to clubs. But I moved here from college. I went to college at South Carolina State University, and I left Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I moved here to the city of Atlanta in July of 1997. So it's been 20 years since I've been here. And yeah, those first few years was, the club scene was really, it was really crazy. And I think like for me, it was, at first it was just something new. Cause like when I first moved here, me and my boy, we moved together, my boy Jay Fresh, we didn't know anybody. So, and I wasn't married, didn't have any kids. So, you're a bachelor in a new city. You got a pocket full of money. What are you going to do? You're going to party, right? And so, yeah, the club. So for me, going to clubs was, it was like a frequent occurrence, if you will. And I just remember like I said, being single and not having any kids, you would do it so frequent. Like perfect example. Like again, Jay Fresh, my roommate, Fresh would come to the crib. It's a Tuesday night. Yo, man, this party going on at such and such and such. All right, let's go. I mean, like there was no hesitation. There was no, oh man, I got to write this blog post, or hey, I got to, got this presentation at work tomorrow. Nah, it was screw all that, man. We hit the club, and so like. We went out so frequent because we were trying to familiarize ourselves with the city. And Atlanta was, a booming city, at least to us it was at that particular time in 1997. So, so we had to do that. So, it would be nothing for me to go out Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday nights were usually the only nights that we didn't go out. And then sometimes Jay Fresh would go out Sunday nights. I'd be like, nah, I'm chilling. And, I was so much younger. So you're not as tired, and recovery ain't the same. You don't have to spend all day. And then, and I've said this before on previous podcasts, like I'm not much of a drinker. So me going to the clubs was never about me going to get drunk, because that doesn't happen. But it would just be about the mood, the atmosphere, and the vibe of the club. That's what I really, really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the music, really enjoyed the vibe of the clubs that I was going to. So yeah, man. So it was, the club, I hit it pretty hard to say the least. Nonetheless, fast forward, beyond that time, got married, had a kid. Actually, had a kid, got married, had another kid, had another kid, had another kid. So anyway, my wife and I, we have 4 kids. We have 4 kids because we don't want 5, right? So, but even after I got married, what was interesting was like, I remember people saying like, yo, man, you're going to get married. You ain't going back to the clubs. Like that wasn't supposed to happen. And, quite the contrary, I would go to clubs, with my friends, and sometimes I would go with my wife and, have a ball. And what was interesting was like, she wasn't a woman and still isn't a woman that would trip on something like that because she knows who I am. Like, I'm not going to the club to try to find somebody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to the club to try to holler at somebody. Although I will say this much. One thing that I did learn, and I learned very quickly, was that just because you're married and you're in the club, doesn't mean that women won't hit on you. Because they do. I learned that very quickly. I mean, like, you're talking to a woman, you're standing by the bar or whatever. Next thing you know, first thing she does is look down at your left hand. Yeah, you know what time it is. So anyway, like I said, so that never, I mean, that didn't stop women from hitting on it, but you know how to play that kind of stuff. Nonetheless, so even after I got married, I still would, I wouldn't go as frequent. Once I settled down per se, no, I would not. It wouldn't be a everyday thing like it was when I was living with Jay Fresh. But I would still go to clubs, probably I'd say maybe twice a month, and so, so I would always go with the same crew. It would either be Jay Fresh or, my boy Steve or Clark or whomever. I never was into going to clubs with like different people who I didn't know, or going to clubs to meet other friends or anything like that. That generally didn't work for me. I like to go with my friends and my crew. So, you know who you're with. You ain't got to worry about nothing. You know that you're not. I knew that the crew that I ran with weren't a bunch of hotheads, so it wasn't like something was gonna pop off and we were gonna have to start fighting or something like that, because I roll with cats who didn't get down like that. Nonetheless, man, clubs were really, really interesting to say the least. I remember the first time that I went to a club with my wife. She was my girl at the time. She was still in school in South Carolina. She came down and we went to Club 112, where the players dwell. So we went to 112, and it was weird because we had gone to parties together, but we had never gone to a club together. So this was our first, like, quote unquote official, going to a club, and it just felt weird. I don't know why, and to this day I can't really tell you why it felt, because again, it wasn't like I was in there trying to holler at anybody. It wasn't like she was trying to holler at anybody, but we came to the club together and we left the club together. And, we had a good time, but it just felt weird having her there. I don't know why. Nonetheless, that was the first time. And then obviously, we would do that more and more as the time goes on. But 112 was, really, really popping back then. So was Club SO here in the city of Atlanta. And so, I got a chance to, at that particular time, I was, and still am, a huge hip hop fan, and Atlanta had in the late 90s, early 2000s had a really, really buzzing underground hip hop scene. So a lot of times I would go to these underground hip hop clubs just to hear underground acts, or I would go hear battles and stuff like that. So I was really, really entranced in that. I was my friends at the time called me a backpack rap fan. I love those backpack rappers. Which is true, but I love all kind of rappers, but at that particular time, man, the backpack rap was dope, and they had a really, really dope scene here in Atlanta. I really can't speak too much to the hip hop scene of Atlanta right now, because I have no clue as to what these fools are talking about. But that's another story for another day. Nonetheless, so the clubs were really, that was my draw to the clubs. So I would go to clubs, hang out, and just have a good time. But, over the years, things kind of changed, and, The music changed, and I changed, and just going out and staying out to 2-3 o'clock in the morning just wasn't the move, man. It was just like and then you get older, and stuff isn't as important. And I remember being at a club one night, and I was just like, man, I wish my wife was here. And it wasn't because like I needed her or anything like that, but I thought the experience that I was having, like, it would have been dope for me to have her with me as opposed to her being at home. And I told her about it. And so, like, at that particular time, I was like, you know what, man, that along with, like I said, the recovery time, trying to get up the next morning, and I'm not a person who lay around in the bed or anything like that. So I was like, you know what, man, maybe I might need to kind of chill on the club. So I stopped going. It was a gradual thing. It wasn't something that happened overnight. But over a period of time, man, I just learned some things. I saw a lot of things. And it's just some things you just can't do in a club. And like, for instance, if you're going to a club, don't try to introduce somebody in the club. I mean, like, that is like one of the hardest things to do, trying to introduce somebody to somebody else in the club. Oh, hey, this is my girlfriend, such and such. It's loud music in the club. So trying to introduce somebody to somebody else in the club while the music's playing, when it's loud, not a good idea. And I think probably this is something that happens more often right now than it did back in the mid 2000s. Taking pictures. I mean, don't take pictures in the club, man. For one, it's dark. Most clubs are dark and, are darkly lit, and they're darkly lit for a reason. So, no, you don't take pictures in the club. And I understand why people do it, but, you want to post it on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, whatever the case may be. But, yeah, man, that's probably not a good idea. You know what? Another thing that used to happen to me a lot was people would get drunk, and then like you tell them where you work or who you work for or something like that, and they want to talk business. It's kind of hard for me to talk business with you if you're drunk. Yo, man, I'm trying to do this right here. You know what I'm saying? Let me get you. You got a business card, yo? For real. Can't do it, man. You can't talk business when you're drunk. Another thing that I used to see happen all the time in the club, fellas, and I stand guilty as charged as I say this. Don't grab ass in the crowd. You know how, like, maybe you're walking through the bathroom and it's really, really crowded, and you just, a woman's in front of you, just grab her ass, and then you look the other way like you didn't do it. Because, I mean, what's she going to say? It's like 5 other guys surrounding. She doesn't know who did it. She just knows somebody grabbed ass. Don't grab ass. Oh, and another one. Don't grab the woman by the arm. Or ladies, don't grab men. Nobody wants to be yanked on. I mean, you can say excuse me or hello or something, but don't grab people by the arm. And another thing that kind of turned me off of the clubs over a period of time was the music started to change. And like, for me, when I go to clubs, especially back then, I want to dance. And I mean, like, because my thing is, if I paid $20 to get in, I paid another $15 for parking. These high ass drinks, I'm probably dropping about $100, just on GP, if I buy a round or two for the crew, so $100, $150 could go pretty quickly in a club. So, and I'm not even talking about, trying to go to some VIP section to get bottles. I ain't doing that shit. But nonetheless, so yeah, man. So over a period of time, like, I want to dance. So I'm strictly going to the club and I want to dance. I want to have a good time. So I want to hear good music. I want to hear, throw on that old school hip hop. Of course, anybody knows me knows that's gonna get me on the floor. I'm gonna do the WAP. I want to have a good time, throwing some Eric B for president. Whatever the case may be. I want to have a good time. I want to dance. I want to, play that 90s set, play those 80s, whatever. Play reggae. I'm cool with reggae. I've kind of, I didn't like reggae when I got to college. I'll be honest. I couldn't stand reggae music, but I've acquired a taste for reggae. I'll dance to reggae. When you play the Cupid Shuffle or the Electric Slide or the Wobble, I'm getting the hell off the dance floor, right? I can't. I can't. I'm not with the line dances, man. Y'all can have that. Never been a fan. Probably won't ever be a fan of your black line dances. Another thing too that I just thought of. Speaking of dancing, I've often seen in the clubs, the phenomenon of women dancing with each other. Can somebody please explain this to me? Because I thought the premise was to go to the club to dance with men. Now if that's how you get down, it's different. But I ain't talking about you. I'm talking about the people who, you got 5 women and they're in a circle and they're just dancing with each other. But when a guy comes up and starts dancing near or behind them, they try to clown the dude. Not cool at all. So please, somebody, hit me up. You can drop a comment on SoundCloud or Stitcher, or you can shoot me a tweet at 12Kyle, the number 12KYLE. Please explain, ladies. Please explain why you dance in a circle and don't dance with other men. So yeah, I didn't understand that phenomenon over a period of time, and then really, to be honest, as far as the dancing aspect of it, over a period of time, the DJs really got to be whack, and a lot of the music that started to get played, I couldn't rock out to it. I mean, especially here in Atlanta, where the music scene changed. It seemed like it changed relatively quickly, but I think it was a gradual thing. When the clubs that I was going to started playing more of the local rappers, and there were, that snap rap and all of that other stuff, the dope boy stuff. I mean, that stuff is different to listen to, but I don't want to hear Young Jock in the club. I don't want to hear Young Jock B-sides or little scrappy B-sides. I'm good, bro. You can play that. I'm not gonna be in your club listening to that. So the whack DJs and the whack songs really kind of drove me away from the club. Now when I get out, I will say this much: there's some songs that I want to hear. You throw on, let's say, Lil Jon. You throw some Lil Jon, I might A-Town stomp with you. Actually, I probably will A-Town stomp with you. Shout out to my boy Clark. We stomped a hole in Club Dragonfly one night doing the A-Town stomp. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, so, I want to hear certain songs. I want to hear a certain vibe. Again, it goes back to the vibe of the club. That was one of the reasons why I like going to clubs, because I enjoyed the vibe in that particular club that I was going to. When it got to the point where the vibe changed, I realized that it really, really wasn't for me. Another thing, that I think about when I think about being in the club, one of the funniest moments is, here's a bit of advice to everybody listening. Don't fall asleep in the club. I know that's easier said than done. You had a hard day's work, you're drinking, of course you're tired, you might want to fall asleep. Case in point, I remember one time, me and my man Jay Fresh, we went to this club called Club Esso. It's no longer around. Anyway, so we're here, it's downtown Atlanta. So Fresh didn't like that. Okay, they had 3 different levels, and on the main level was, they were playing hip hop. I think at the upper level they were playing like salsa or something like that. And then downstairs in the basement, they were playing reggae, right? So Fresh was like, "Man, I'm going downstairs." He didn't like the set that the DJ was playing as far as hip hop. So he goes downstairs, right? And he's like, "I'm gonna be sitting on this couch." So he's sitting on this couch, And so I'm like, okay. So I'm dancing or whatever. I'm having a good time. And then I go downstairs and I see him and I'm like, I'll be back. We make eye contact and I'm like, yo, I'll be back. So I go back upstairs. I dance some more. Man, I'm dancing maybe about, 30 minutes. And I come back downstairs and I see Jay Fresh still sitting on the couch, but I can only see the back of his head from where I'm standing. And from where I'm standing, Jay Fresh has 3 women on his left, 3 women on his right. And these were by far 6 of the most beautiful women in the club. So I'm like, yo, Jay Fresh just scored in and he got some dimes sitting around him. So I'm like, okay, he got to be over there spitting game, right? I walk over there. This dude is knocked out. He had no clue. And I was like, yo, is my boy okay? They was like, yeah, he good. You know, we not going to bother him. I was like, no, I ain't worried about y'all bothering him. I said, do you want me to wake him up? And she was like, no, we got him like that. So I'm like, okay, they're going to take care of him. And so maybe about 10 minutes passed by and Jay Fresh comes upstairs or whatever like that. He's like, yo, you ready to bounce? I'm like, yeah, we can bounce. And I was like, so what's up with those women? He was like, what women? I was like, the women that were sitting around you. Would you believe that he had no clue that that these beautiful women were sitting around him? And not only that, but when he woke up, they left him sitting there. Right. So of course he was mad that, he missed out on hollering at some dimes. So yeah, don't fall asleep in the club. That, you don't want to do that. Another PSA for the fellas about being in the club. And one thing that I could not do now, I'm a moderate drinker. I'm not a heavy drinker or anything like that. I did go through my phase where I like drinking martinis, and I still like a good martini. But fellas, you can't order martinis in the club. You just can't, because they're going to give it to you in a martini glass. And a guy drinking out of a martini glass does not look cool. Period. Ladies, you don't understand. And I know that you're sitting there, you're listening, and you're like, what is he talking about? I'm telling you facts. Guys cannot order martinis from a bar. Now, if you're at, a bar in a club, if you're at home or you're at a house set or you're at some little cool out spot, that's different. But in a club, nah, man, can't do it. You cannot order a martini unless somehow you can convince the bartender to put the martini in a beer mug. Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And another thing, before I forget about it, bathroom attendants. I don't understand the purpose of a bathroom attendant. I mean, like, if I'm 30 years old, I know how to get to the bathroom. I know how to use the bathroom without using the bathroom on myself. I don't need you standing there, turning the water on for me, handing me a hand towel, handing me soap. Bruh, I can do this myself. So, and I know that they're in there to get money and the whole nine. I've never, ever paid a bathroom attendant a dime. You call me cheap, you call me whatever. I don't care. Dude, you're just standing there. I don't need you to help. I don't need your mints. I don't need anything. I don't need a bathroom attendant. Again, I've been going to the bathroom on my own probably since I was 1 year old. So, ever since then, I've been good. So I don't necessarily need your help. Before I get out of here, man, a couple of quick stories, club stories that I remember. First one involved me at a club called Club 559 here in Atlanta. And I think probably I'd been there maybe 20 minutes. And I don't think I've ever been somewhere for such a short period of time and feared for my life. When I tell you, this club was the most hood club I have ever been in my life. I went in there, mess around with one of my boys who went to meet another woman. So he went there to meet some other woman. And he was like, yo, just meet me there, blah, 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 blah. And I had heard all of this stuff about 559, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. I can hit it, you know. And I was relatively young, so it wasn't like, you know, I mean, like I think this was like 99. So I was still a young buck. So nonetheless, get up in the 559, man. And this woman approaches me, and the first thing she said was, she said hello, and she told me what her name was. Her name was Stephanie, and she said, "Shawty, you from around here?" Her? I mean, like, I didn't know what she said because she said it so southwestern. She said it so southwest Atlanta-ish that I didn't understand. So I was like, "Excuse me, Shawty, you from around here? You must not be from around here, Shawty." No, I'm not, sweetheart. I'm from South Carolina. Where you from? I'm from Southwest. Okay. And so she began to talk or whatever like that. And I did not notice it at first, but then I looked into her mouth and she had like 3 gold teeth. Not to mention, you know, a nice pink weave ponytail. That, you know, kind of coincided with her hazel blue eyes, even though her complexion was almost as dark as mine. Yeah. So I got this chick hollering at me, and in the meantime, my boy is nowhere to be found in this club. And like, you're like, "You gonna buy me a drink?" Sure. What do you want? She wanted, and I should have known better than to buy her a drink. But she wanted a Heineken. So I was like, okay, I'll give you a Heineken. And I gave her a Heineken. I bought her a Heineken. So we're standing there talking or whatever. And the music's loud and they're playing the most hood Atlanta rap you could ever think. They were playing rappers I'd never even heard of. And so she goes on to tell me this story about how she had just broken up with a boyfriend and a boyfriend was cheating on her with some girl or something like that. Make a long story short, about 10 minutes into the conversation, she excuses herself from the conversation. She goes over to the other side of the club. Now, I don't see this. I find this out later. But apparently, she saw the girl who had been cheating with her ex-boyfriend. And she proceeds to hit her upside the head with the Heineken bottle that I had just purchased for her. So a fight breaks out. Okay, I'm gone. Because I learned a long time ago when I was in college, anytime a fight breaks out in the club, you got to leave. You know, because there's nothing good that's going to come of that. And so they turn the lights on, and I'm like, and I kind of see through the crowd, and I mean, like, she's over there scrapping with this girl. And I'm like, yo, I gotta go. So I get the hell out of there. So yeah, that was my one and only visit to the fight. I mean, like, I never felt comfortable in that spot. And I'm not like a scary person, but like, I do believe that, you know, we all should be aware of our surroundings. I'm pretty sure. Oh, and I forgot to mention that, I'm pretty sure that everybody that was in the club didn't get frisked to get in the club. So I was pretty sure there was some guns in the club. Nah, bruh. You start fighting, I'm good. So that was one story. And the other club story that will never be not funny to me. I was working at this company, and I was one of my coworkers. He had like this. He had a couple of successful months, if you will, as far as his sales go. In fact, I think like on 3 consecutive months, he got $20,000. So the month of May, June, and July, he got $60,000. Right. So I think this was in like June or something. No, this might have been July. So he was like, "Yo, man, we're going to Club Visions. We're gonna celebrate, man. We're gonna celebrate." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Yo, you coming?" I was like, and I don't really know this guy like that. I know him. He's cool. He was a Panamanian kid. And, you know, I was like, all right, cool. So me and a bunch of other dudes from work, you know, we go to Club Visions. And Visions was the premier club in the city at that particular time. Shout out to Visions, man. I had a lot of great nights in Visions. So we get to the club, And, I get there. I don't see the kid's name was V. I don't see V or anybody else from work. So I was kind of walking around and I saw one of my coworkers. He was like, yo, V and the rest of the fellas are up in VIP. And the VIP section sat above the club. So like you could kind of look down on the people. And the VIP section was almost just as high as the DJ booth. Anyway, so he was like, yo, they're in VIP. You want to come up? And I was like, yeah. I said, what do we have to do to get up there? He was like, just walk over there. So we walked over. Security guard let us in. So we went up to the VIP section. So now, keep in mind, in all these years of going to the club, I had never been in the VIP section. It wasn't no big deal. I mean, I don't care one way or the other. But I'd never been in the VIP section. So I get in the section, and V has this huge section of the VIP, and there's like 3 tables, and on the tables, every kind of wine, champagne, liquor that you could think of, juice, anything that you wanted was right there. And so V was like, yo, man, drink up. We're going to have a ball. He's got this Spanish accent. We're going to have a ball, man. We're going to have a ball party tonight on me. Okay. If you're giving away free liquor, I mean, like, who's going to turn down free liquor? Definitely not me, right? So anyway, make a long story short, we're about, 13 deep up in VIP. And I looked out of the corner of my eye and I remember seeing Robert Horry, who's playing with the Spurs at the time. And like Robert Horry's up there and he's by himself and he's looking over at us like, yo, who are these dudes? Like, cause we probably maybe about 15 deep. We were 15 deep. But the dudes from work started kind of getting kind of wild. And the wildest one was V. Now, again, he had already paid for all his liquor. And I'm doing the math in my head between the champagne and everything. It's probably about $3,000 worth of liquor on the table already. But this is V. V's got it. You know what I'm saying? His check $20,000 that day. We just gotten paid that day too. So, I guess, he felt good about it. Nonetheless, so V started, of course, women are up there with us and everything. So V starts dancing with this girl. And V is getting a little frisky, if you will. So V is like rubbing all on her chest, trying to stick his hand down her pants. And she's not stopping him because she's enjoying the vibe because the music was crazy. I mean, like, we were having a great time. But the security guard walks over and like, look, man, you can't be groping her like that. And V was like, okay. But by this time, and I got to the club maybe an hour later than everybody else. By this time, V was like blitzed. Like, he was slizzard for real. Right? So this goes on maybe about another 10, 15 minutes. And V's back up on the chick again. He's like grinding on her and just it wasn't the fact he was grinding on her, but it was the fact he was rubbing all over her. And like, people were watching, and like, there were people on the dance floor that could look up in the VIP and could see him. So like, security guard walks over and he grabs V and pulls him away from the girl. He's like, look, man, I told you once, you can't keep doing this. He's like, you do this again, I'm gonna have to throw you out. And so V is like, all right, man, all right. So I guess, man, 5 minutes go by and V's like, I guess he gets at it again. So this time he's trying to, like, she had a thong on and he's like pulling on the thong and, smacking on the ass, and he's like digging in her pants. And security guard, he grabs V and he lifts him up like from the back of his jacket and his pants and proceeds to walk him to the back door, and he got thrown out of the club. And if you want to see how he looked when he got thrown out of the club, remember how Uncle Phil used to throw Jazzy Jeff out of the house on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show? It was just like that. And V gets thrown out of the club. Now, meanwhile, we've got $3,000 worth of liquor still here. Just because V got kicked out doesn't mean that the liquor can't get consumed, right? So we proceeded to laugh at V, which was hilarious because I thought it was funny. Now, maybe I'm not right for laughing because I was laughing and then drinking up his liquor, but I thought it was hilarious, man. I mean, he warned him 3 times. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, what kind of set it off was when he was grinding on the girl and rubbing on her, and the security guard came over. V said, "Fuck you." That was the last thing he said before the security guard threw him out. So, me and the fellas, man, we consumed the rest of the drinks for the rest of the night. And it was dope. It was one of the best times I had. And I will say this much. That night, I drank more than I've ever drank before in life. And I got behind the wheel of a car that I shouldn't have. And fortunately for me, I made it home safely. But I vowed to never drink like that and drive again. Because I was cognizant of how I was doing it. Because what I did was when I left the club, I called Jay Fresh. By this time, Jay Fresh is living in LA. And, it was probably about 3:00 in the morning here. So it was 12 there. He was still at the crib. And I talked to him all the way home. So I was fine as far as driving. But looking back on it now, I was way, like, if I had gotten pulled over, I would have definitely gotten a DUI. And it scared me because I'm like, yo, you should never drive that. You should never drive like that intoxicated, anywhere. So anyway, make a long story short, I drive and I get into my subdivision. And when I get into my subdivision, I decide to get off the phone with Jay Fresh. And I drive past my house. I drive past my house, down the street, into the cul-de-sac, and then I parked the car in the cul-de-sac. And I went to sleep like for maybe about 10 minutes. And then I woke up and I'm like, where the hell am I? And so then I drive my driveway, park the car, go home. And this particular weekend, I think my wife and the kids had gone out of town. So I was home by myself. And I came in the house, man. I had like some linen pants on. My linen pants and these were dope linen pants. My linen pants were stained. They had like some red, I don't know what red. Maybe I had red wine. Maybe I think I had may spilled on me or something. But I had this big ass red stain on the knee. I thought I cut myself. Nonetheless, ended up crashing. Didn't wash. Didn't take a shower. Nothing. Just funky, dirty. And had a ball. So yeah, man, you used to could find me in the club. Nowadays, if I do go out, it'll be me and the wife or me and the crew. And it'll just be a lounge. I don't do all the loud music. I'm just somewhere kicking on some cool out shit. If I can go hit the dance floor, do my 2-step, and then go home, I'm good. I can do that. Clubs, not so much. So can't find me in any more clubs. But back in the day, you definitely could find me in the club. Thanks for checking out another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.